One of my favorite things in logo animation is adding custom icons to the design. It's a simple way to make the animation more unique and visually engaging. In today's video, I will show you most common techniques to create such animation. You can download the project file linked in the description, so let's get started. Start with fixing anchor point of a bottom layer. Press Y on your keyboard and bring the anchor point to the bottom. Now let's bring up our first letter. Click the I icon and make it visible. Again, press Y on your keyboard for anchor point. Bring this one to the bottom as well. Now we need to fix the timing on the timeline, and let's cut the bottom layer. Select the layer and press Ctrl plus Shift plus D. Simply delete it, and now let's add position keyframes. For that, press P to access the position properties. Add a keyframe to set the last position. And now let's fix this layer to make it visible. For its last position, move the bottle to the left. Make sure it overlaps the letter C. Now bring the timeline indicator to the beginning and move the bottle to the right side. Now select all keyframes and press F9 to ease the keyframes. After doing that, we need to adjust rotation properties. So press R on your keyboard to access it. Then add a keyframe and set this as its last position. Now bring the timeline indicator to the beginning and adjust the rotation slightly to the right. Next, move this keyframe further and adjust the value to the 0. This will set its start position. Now we have 3 keyframes, and for now it's enough, so select all of them and press F9 to ease them. These keyframes created sliding bottle effect. Now we need to adjust rotation properties of our letter C. So again, press R to access it and create first keyframe to set its last position. For the start position, adjust the rotation slightly to the left. This will create an overshoot effect. Now let's fix the timing on the timeline to make it a bit faster. Next, we will need to add offset path effect. This will help to our shape to appear more smooth. Now create a keyframe and set the amount to the 0. This keyframe will be our shape's initial position. Now let's add the second keyframe and adjust the amount until our bottle shape completely disappears. By doing that, we will achieve more smoother reveal. Now let's apply exact same steps to our first letter, which is the letter C. Adding offset path effect, creating 2 keyframes. The last position will be 0 and the first one we will adjust it until it disappears. Before we move forward, let's take a time and adjust the timing of those keyframes. Feel free to play around and you will achieve your best result. Now the most important part is the graph editor. Motion curves will help us to set the style of the animation. Let me show you the graph editor one by one. For our position, we will need slower start and fast ending. For the rotation, adjust the curves similar to this one. And rotation properties of letter C will make something like this. We need fast start and deceleration towards the end. Now let's take a moment and preview the animation. I think it's nice, so we can move forward. Now let's bring up our second letter. Press this icon over here to isolate our letter. Let's also make the background visible. Now we will use a very old school way to animate this letter. Press Pen tool, deselect the fill and select the stroke. Next step is simply drawing over our letter, making sure it overlaps the letter, because later we will animate it. You need to be a bit careful here because it has to overlap the letter, otherwise the animation wouldn't work. So to achieve this, just increase the thickness of a stroke. Then adjust the edges and we can duplicate the letter. So select the layer and press Ctrl plus D to duplicate it. Now bring this stroke layer to above to our first letter layer. Next step will be animating this stroke. And for that we will use trim path effect. So click to this little play icon and add trim path effect. Set a keyframe for end property and move it further. Set another keyframe for the start position and adjust the value to the 0. Now select all keyframes and press F9 to ease them. Adjust the graph editor similar to this one. This way we will achieve more smooth animation. Now set the math effect to the shape layer 2. Next, select the duplicated layer and we will apply the same steps here. Select the pen tool and start drawing over our second part of a letter. Now bring the layer above to our duplicated layer. And now let's copy the trim path effect from our first stroke layer. Simply select it and press Ctrl C to copy it. Go back to our second stroke, select content and press Ctrl V to paste it. Finally, select the matte effect and our animation is done. Apply the same steps to our other letters and let's see how it looks. Next, let's adjust the timing of our letters in the timeline. This part is up to you, so take your time and play around. Next, select all layers and move them further in the timeline. Choose the icon layer and bring it to the beginning. Now adjust the layer's timing once more and we are ready to animate our icon layer. This one is relatively simple because we will need to add position keyframes first. So press P to access the position properties and add a keyframe. Move the timeline indicator to the back and adjust the position to the left side. Next, move the timeline indicator to the beginning. Go to the window and select Align. Next, simply align it to the center. Now our position keyframes are done, so let's adjust the rotation properties. Set a keyframe, move it further to set the last position. And for the start position, adjust the rotation. Next, select the position keyframes and select the pen tool. Simply click to the motion path to create a more circular motion. Now select all rotation keyframes, press F9 to ease them and adjust the graph editor similar to this one. We need a slower start, acceleration in the middle and deceleration towards the end. Next, select the position keyframes, ease them and adjust the graph editor similar to this one. Lastly, press S to access the scale properties. Put a keyframe and then press U to reveal all keyframes. Move this keyframe further and adjust the first keyframe and scale it up. Before we move further, we need to add offset path effect to our bottom layer. Again, the same techniques as we did earlier, 2 keyframes. First will be the disappearance of a shape and the last will be the 0. Now, after applying all the steps, let's take a moment and preview the animation. We are almost there. Last thing, we need to add small detail to our animation. Select the pen tool and draw a line. Adjust the thickness of this line and of course match the color. Next step will be adding trim path effect. Set 2 keyframes to the end properties from 0 to 100. Put a keyframe for offset properties. Move the timeline indicator to the middle and adjust the value. Lastly, set a start keyframes from 0 to 100 as well. Now select all keyframes, press F9 to ease them and play around with the timing. So, that was the last step of our animation. I hope you enjoyed and really learned something new. If you did, please don't forget to subscribe and like the video. I'll see you in the next one.